Everyone who works at 30 Rock, I ask them this question. Tracy Morgan, what is it like to work with that man?
Oh, man.
He's an amazing presence.
He's a man-child, is I guess the most generous way I can put it. He's a man-child.
It's heartbreaking how greatness is often born from the kind of pain no one ever sees. The line lingers not just as narration, but as a truth that drifts through the story of Alec Baldwin's life. A truth written not in red carpets or applause, but in the quiet weight of survival, in the hollow echo after fame fades, and in the voice of a man who learned that brilliance and burden often wear the same face. Alec Baldwin, the man whose very presence defines the gravity of a scene, the tension between control and chaos, the magnetism of a performer who doesn't just act, he inhabits. From the chilling command of The Hunt for Red October to the razor-sharp wit of 30 Rock, he didn't perform to impress. He performed to endure. For decades, his name has been synonymous with precision, authority, and poise. But behind the spotlight, behind the unshakable voice, and the smirk that could disarm any silence, there was always a quieter story. A story of scars inherited, of faith and failure, of guilt and glory interwoven. Because Alec Baldwin's life, for all its triumph, has never been a straight climb. It has been a balancing act between talent and torment, between what the world sees and what it forgets to ask. And in October 2025, fate offered another reminder that even legends are mortal. A quiet car accident in East Hampton, no fatalities, no headlines of disaster, just a silent, shuddering echo that life, once again, had no intention of letting him rest. At 67, Baldwin stood like a man between worlds, the light of acclaim and the shadow of memory. Every line on his face told both stories, brilliance and storm. Soft music fades under the narration. His story did not start in fame. It began in Massapequa, Long Island, a small town where salt clung to the wind and dreams hung heavier than the air. April 3, 1958. The Baldwin house, narrow, loud, alive. 6 children, 1 kitchen, a symphony of laughter and argument echoing through thin walls and thinner patience. The wallpaper peeled near the stove. The floorboards groaned under the weight of growing feet. Dinner wasn't about luxury, it was survival with grace. Plates chipped, but never empty. Elbows touching, tempers rising, love silent but steadfast. His father, Alexander Baldwin Jr., was a history teacher and football coach. He came home with chalk dust on his sleeves and fatigue in his bones. The scent of old coffee, the echo of discipline. A man who believed in dignity over desire, effort over excuse. His words carved the boy's spine. Work hard, not for glory, for decency. And his mother, Carol, the soft storm of that house, a woman who never stopped moving, cooking, cleaning, mending, praying. Her silence was mercy, her hands, constellations of sacrifice. At night, young Alec sat by the frost-rimmed window, tracing shapes on the glass, waiting for the familiar jingle of his father's keys. That sound, soft and metallic, meant safety. It meant the world hadn't broken him today. Sometimes, he'd find his father asleep at the kitchen table, red pen in hand, papers half-graded beneath his arm. The light flickering overhead, like a thought too tired to stay awake. Alec almost reached out to touch that hand. Almost. But love, in their home, didn't always need to be said. It was endurance. It was bread shared quietly. It was survival in the shape of faith. Years later, Baldwin would say, "We weren't poor, but we counted every dollar. Nothing was wasted, not food, not words, not dreams." Their faith, Irish Catholic, devout, was both compass and cage. It kept them grounded, but it also shadowed them with guilt. Ambition was sin-adjacent. Desire was dangerous. Even dreams needed permission. Catholic guilt is real, he'd laugh decades later. You grow up thinking even your dreams might be a sin. And yet, inside that guilt, something rebelled. A spark. A defiance born of reverence. He didn't want to leave home to escape it. He wanted to prove it right. To honor the love that built him by becoming something more. By 18, he was at George Washington University, chasing politics, chasing belonging. He ran for student body president and lost. A small defeat to others, but to him, it felt biblical. Failure in his house wasn't an event. It was shame. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. A letter from Richard Nixon. Alec held it like scripture. Inside, words that reshaped him. Failure isn't the end. It's the beginning. A benediction from a man who had fallen harder than most. It gave Baldwin permission to dream without guilt. To pursue ambition not as sin, but as gratitude. Still, his father's voice followed him everywhere. Work hard, not for glory, for dignity. That voice became a ghost, guiding and haunting him in equal measure. When his father died suddenly in 1983, cancer, cruel and swift, Alec was 25, and the world dimmed. He said later, "It felt like someone turned down the volume of life. The man who taught him integrity was gone." And in that silence, Alec began to chase noise performance, applause, validation. He didn't know it yet, but every role he'd ever play would be a conversation with that absence. Every line delivered, an echo of his father's lost voice. He arrived in New York with nothing but stubbornness. The city was cold wind slicing through his coat, rent due before the week was over. He lived in a room that could fit in a suitcase. Wallpaper peeling, radiator coughing, hope barely hanging on. He waited tables at Studio 54, the glimmering temple of the 1970s. He cleaned up after the famous, watching from the shadows as laughter shimmered off champagne glasses. The irony burned. He wasn't bitter, he was observant. He studied the way the powerful moved, the way charisma filled space. Every spilled drink, every echoing laugh. A lesson. By day, he trained at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, surrounded by students who spoke the language of privilege. They had polish. He had hunger. When professors asked for refinement, he gave them raw fire. When they wanted poise, he gave them pulse. He said years later, "Everyone there seemed born for it. I was just trying not to disappear." Winter of 1980 nearly did disappear him. Rent unpaid, heat gone. He spent one night on a park bench beneath a broken street lamp. Snow fell like judgment. He whispered lines from a play, breath fogging in the air, a promise to no one but himself. You fail quietly for a long time before anyone notices you. But then, a phone call. A small role in a soap opera, The Doctors. Nothing glamorous, but everything changed. He read his name on the call sheet twice, once in disbelief, once in survival. It wasn't success. It was proof that he existed. The 1980s a climb built on exhaustion. One set led to another. By 1988, his name was everywhere. Beetlejuice, Working Girl, Married to the Mob. 3 hits, one storm of recognition. Then came The Hunt for Red October. Alongside Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin didn't just act, he arrived. Hollywood called him its next Pacino. But Alec knew what it had cost. He said, "I thought success would feel like peace. It felt like drowning with applause." Fame fed him visibility but stole rest. He smiled on cue, laughed on schedule, became what the industry demanded. But alone in hotel rooms, silence roared louder than cheers. He'd leave the TV on just to hear another voice. The 90s brought reckoning. He fought to be taken seriously, not as a pretty face, but a force. Glengarry Glen Ross proved it. But the shadow burned millions, and soon Hollywood whispered, difficult. his reputation collapsed. 2 years without calls. 2 years learning that fame is arithmetic. One mistake erases 10 miracles. He returned to Broadway where the lights were smaller, but human. "I had to start over," he said, "because success made me forget why I began." Then came Redemption Pearl Harbor, The Cooler. Awards followed. Respect returned. And then 30 Rock. Critics mocked it. Career suicide, they said. But it resurrected him. 2 Emmys, 3 Golden Globes, $300,000 an episode. A triumph, but one that left him hollow. He said, "The cameras turned off, and I couldn't hear myself think." By his 50s, Baldwin had wealth beyond his boyhood imagination. But money echoes. It doesn't speak. It doesn't forgive. Fame, he once said, is just debt in disguise. You spend your life paying for it. He worked because he had to. Not for the money, for the meaning. Because for Alec Baldwin, acting wasn't pretending. It was breathing. 2021 New Mexico. A quiet film set. A prop gun. A rehearsal something he'd done 1,000 times. And then a moment. A flash. A sound that would never leave him. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins gone. The air froze. Silence swallowed everything. He went home unable to speak. Scripts, lights, lines, all meaningless. Sleep abandoned him. Every time his eyes closed, the moment replayed. He said softly, "You think you know pain until life teaches you what it really means." The world argued, headlines blared, accusations flew. But inside his home, time stopped. He avoided mirrors. He avoided light. The ocean outside his Hamptons house kept moving, mocking the stillness inside him. He whispered apologies into the night, to the sea, to the air, to the silence. 2024, after years of scrutiny, the case was dismissed. Inside that courtroom, he sat still. When the words came, "dismissed," he didn't smile. He broke. Tears, trembling. Not victory release. A man allowed, finally, to breathe. He said nothing as cameras flashed outside. For the first time in decades, Alec Baldwin wasn't performing. He was surviving. He went home to family, to ocean, to quiet. He told interviewers later, softly, "Art is never worth a life." Now he lives slower, smaller. Mornings with children, evenings in silence. He still carries the weight, but with reverence. Because forgiveness, he says, isn't something you receive. It's something you live for. Before fame, there were faces. Holly Gear, his first real love, in the early 80s. 2 actors in a 5th floor walk-up, surviving on coffee and rejection letters. She knew him before the world did. And that kind of love never leaves. Then Janine Turner, the engagement that promised forever and couldn't hold it. 2 careers, 2 hearts, undone by time. And then Kim Basinger, 1990, the marrying man. Their chemistry was too real, too dangerous. They became Hollywood's perfect storm. Married in 93, daughter, Ireland, born in 95. The world watched them like a film that wouldn't end. For a while, it was paradise. Light streaming through Hampton's windows, Kim playing piano, Alec reading scripts, their daughter laughing in the hall. But paradise has an expiration date. Fame turned love into a spectacle. By 2000, separation. By 2002, divorce. Then came the voicemail, the anger, the tabloids, and silence. "I wasn't angry anymore," he said later. "I was hollow." Kim retreated to quiet, he to work. Ireland grew into a bridge between 2 people still learning to forgive. Their story didn't end, it transformed. Love turned to lesson. Pain turned to peace. A new beginning, 2011, he met Hilaria Thomas, a yoga instructor, calm in a chaotic world. She didn't see the actor. She saw a man who looked tired. They met in a cafe. Ordinary, quiet, real. A year later, St. Patrick's Cathedral. They married without spectacle. No red carpets, no flash, just whispered vows. He said, "I had spent years chasing applause. Now I just wanted a quiet room and someone who understood the silence." The next decade, laughter, diapers, chaos, joy. 7 children: Carmen, Raphael, Leonardo, Romeo, Eduardo, Lucia, and Aria. Each one a small redemption. He worked still, Blue Jasmine, Mission Impossible, The Boss Baby, but with different eyes. Time was measured in birthdays now, not premieres. Home, he said, isn't a place, it's a pause. In 2022, his mother, Carol M. Baldwin, passed. The woman who taught him endurance, who survived breast cancer and built a foundation that saved lives. To the world, she was strength. To Alec, she was home. At her funeral, he said, "My mother didn't teach us how to be famous. She taught us how to be decent." Grief returned older, gentler, and in it, he heard his father's voice again, the whisper of a man grading papers by lamplight, the sound of keys in the door, the reminder that love, once given, never leaves. Today, Alec Baldwin stands not as the Hollywood prince of the 1980s, nor the scandal of the 2020s, but as something rarer, a survivor. The boy who once traced frost on a window now watches sunlight spill across his children's faces. The man who chased applause now listens for laughter in his own home. The actor who once spoke in monologues now whispers in gratitude. Fame once made him larger than life, but it was loss of father, of mother, of peace that finally made him human. He no longer seeks redemption on screens. He lives it one quiet morning at a time. If you still remember Alec Baldwin, the actor, the father, the flawed and enduring human press, like as a gesture not to fame, but to endurance. Because greatness isn't the absence of pain. It's surviving it again and again and still finding the courage to begin.